Melbourne singer and songwriter Jay Santilli was a grand finalist in this year's Toyota Star Maker competition, and since then she has been steadily releasing music at the pace of one single per month. Her latest single is Long Way Home. We're going to talk about that and her musical background and other things. Hello, Jay.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and I am interested in. I'm going to start actually with your musical background because, from what I understand, you started off in pop punk. But what came before that? Because obviously by the time you're performing in a certain genre, you've got a musical background. So what was the very first instrument you played, or was it voice that came first?
It was the keyboard was the first instrument. Yeah, so I grew up listening to country music. My family listened to country and country rock. I grew up in Townsville as a kid, and so out in country in in Townsville there. And I guess growing up, I was listening to a lot of everything. I was surrounded by mixed genres, I guess you could say. And it was when I think I turned 10, I was given a keyboard for Christmas. And I mean, I would pick up any instrument and just try and play things by ear. I was a little bit of a weirdo like that. But my first official instrument that I started doing lessons on was actually the saxophone. Not a lot of, I don't normally say that in interviews, but
But
it was the saxophone.
yeah, that's not
I
the easiest instrument for a child to pick up, though. So what
no.
made you want to go to saxophone apart from, we know that Lisa Simpson on The Simpsons is a saxophone, but why saxophone for you?
Well, funnily enough, I couldn't get into guitar lessons, so I chose the next expensive instrument to do, and that was the saxophone. And my parents loved me for that, but no, I was actually really bad at the saxophone, so so it didn't last very long. I really wanted to get into guitar lessons, and about I think it was the next year in year 8, I was able to get into the guitar lessons in school, and I was apparently really terrible at that as well. My guitar teacher said, so we did group lessons, and he said, "Oh, you're just not really quite at the standard." Wasn't quite his words, it was more like you're terrible, but
Oh,
so, so he said, can you sing the song so that everyone can keep in time? So it was the way that the students kept in time with the
okay.
songs. And yeah, that's kind of how I was introduced into singing.
Right.
Um, so I guess thank you, but to the teacher then. But I've kind of just picked up the guitar and started learning through YouTube and just through apps online, and haven't put it down.
So there's a couple of things to talk about there. One of which is you mentioned that you would pick up instruments and play them by ear quite a lot. So that suggests to me that the guitar lessons and that way of listening may not have suited you because actually you're someone who plays by ear, not through reading music and being taught that way.
It's definitely a thing that I've figured out over the years through my academic life. Is I definitely like to learn by doing, and you can try and teach me something and have me look at a textbook, and it's just going to go straight over my head in one ear and out the other. But if you get me to do it or listen to a song or something, I'll be able to play along, and that's my best way of learning. So yeah, so I guess that's I would love, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have stuck with doing music theory and learning that, because I think it would be a lot easier for me to be able to, I guess, go over to, say, Nashville and read charts and things like that. So that's kind of where I fall behind a little bit. But yeah, if I hear something, I can always play it by ear, which is kind of cool.
So I have a theory that it is one or the other because I learned to read music at quite a young age and I cannot play by ear to save myself. But the people I know who are great at playing by ear didn't learn to read music. So I
There you
kind of
go.
wonder if one cancels the other out once you
Yeah.
start learning.
Yeah, that no, that's it. And I find it helps me with my creativity as well, just to be able to not think about it and just do it.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's pros and cons to it both, I guess.
And so the other thing, just from what your teacher did by getting you to sing the melody to the other students, had you been singing before? Like, did you used to sing around the house? Did you sing along to other people's music?
I I didn't really take it too seriously. it wasn't until I was kind of forced into singing that I did, and I was like, oh, maybe I can actually sing. Because like to be honest, I didn't really think about it as like, oh yeah, I can sing, or I'm not a very good singer, but I always loved music and I loved listening to music, and yeah, so I guess it kind of somewhat made me feel a little bit special to be able to be the singer for these people to learn their instruments. So yeah, it would have been a completely different thing if you said that you're really bad at singing as well. So please stop.
Yeah.
Would have gone to the drums, I reckon.
Look, always a great instrument to have.
Yeah.
But as you said, you went on to teach yourself guitar. So at what point did you start performing? Because obviously at a certain age, you were in pop punk, at least one band or bands, I don't know.
Yeah. I it was actually that year that I started learning the guitar and singing. So a friend, one of my best friends in high school at the time, she's like, oh, let's start performing and learning songs together. And we started playing at the school assemblies, and it kind of just took off from there. And I changed schools, and I joined, yeah, a band with a group of my music classmates, and then we started writing music together, and then started performing at like the local battle of the bands, and it just, I guess I wanted to be the next Hayley Williams and and the lead singer of a Paramore band. So yeah, that's how I got into the pop punk scene, I guess. And I was a bit of an emo kid at heart, to be honest. I listened to a lot of Green Day and My Chemical Romance, and much to my parents' dismay.
Well, look, we all go through it, Jay. I think
Yeah.
everyone has a little emo phase if they love
I
music.
don't think I ever grew out of it, but
I go
I
through
still love,
confessions.
yeah, I still love listening to the hardcore scene and going to the gigs like that. But my personal, like, I guess when I'm writing my own songs, it just comes out as the storytelling. So it's, yeah, definitely I've got a passion for country music and that side of music. So yeah.
Well, clearly you were brainwashed early because, as you said, you grew up listening to country. But in terms of your musical development as an artist, so you were performing with your classmates and writing songs and all those sorts of things. At which stage did that actually start to change towards you becoming a country music artist?
I started entering there's a competition called the Telstra Road to Tamworth,
Oh, I remember that.
which is
Yeah.
no longer anymore. So yeah, that was something that I started auditioning for, and just getting to network within the country music scene. And I didn't really look back. It got to a point when I was like, hey guys, I kind of want to take this road now. And I mean, it was a bit sad, and it was one of those things like an end of an era sort of thing. And but to be honest, I think it was the right move for me, and I haven't really looked back. And I mean, I took a break here and there for a little bit during COVID, and even before then, I was kind of like a little bit, I guess you could say, a bit of an identity crisis. I didn't know really where I was going musically, or what I had to do to kind of get to that next step. I kind of felt like I didn't know where to go, but yeah, I've always come back to country music, and it's done good by me. So yeah,
And I
I hope that
imagine.
answers the question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I also imagine when you can do a few different genres, because sometimes a voice is suited to one or two, and
Yeah,
and on your song "The Story," I was listening to it thinking there's a great rock vocal in there as well. So like, when you can sing a variety of things, and when you're interested in a variety of genres, perhaps that makes it harder actually, because it's then a matter of
yeah,
what do I choose as my vehicle of expression.
you're 100% right. It's especially when I listen to so much music, and just, yeah, growing up listening and performing different types and styles of music, it can be a little bit not confusing, but you get a bit lost, and you're not quite sure.
Mhm.
It all kind of entwines when I'm writing. Sometimes like a melody might seem a little bit like it's suited to a different style, or it's kind of like, oh, that's not really the path that I want to take with this song, but it just comes out that way naturally. So I think with a lot of my music, sometimes some people can get a little bit confused with what my style is.
Mhm.
um, so I don't really want to limit myself and box myself into a genre specifically, but um, I like to think that it's my base is country music, and then my influences can kind of come into it as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And just actually, I've just remembered on the Telstra Road to Tamworth, I'm pretty sure Amber Lawrence tells a story that she was in the same year as Jessica Malboy, and Jessica Malboy won it. And
Wow.
so I think it was that whatever
Wow.
year. I think she recently celebrated 20 years in at the Tamworth Country Music Festival. So obviously it was a little while ago. But there you go, prestigious competition to be in.
It definitely is. I think I was the year after Jasmine Ray won, and Morgan Evans, I think, was the year before Jasmine Ray's. And then, yes, sadly they discontinued the competition, but it was a great platform for me, to be honest. And I auditioned, I think the first year I did it was I was 16, and it was just a really good introduction to the country music scene, and to meeting so many amazing musicians. I formed a really nice friendship with Jasmine Ray, and from there I got to meet Morgan Evans as well, and you just see people at festivals and things like that, and it's just, yeah, it's a really cool community to be a part of.
Well, and clearly you're not afraid of competitions either, because you entered Star Maker this year, or is it that you feel the fear and do it anyway?
No, I just like losing.
I
No, you
honestly,
know what?
from a punter's point of view, I've got to say, I don't think anyone in the Star Maker Grand Final is a loser. Really, the is
No, not
so
at
high.
all.
Sorry, go on.
It's no, like, a lot of people can be disheartened from competitions, especially if you don't come out a winner in the competition. But I feel the judges in these competitions really know what they're doing. They're professionals in the industry, and if you can be amongst them, and have conversations with them and take advice from them, then that's something that you probably wouldn't get otherwise. So, especially with the Toyota Star Maker, I mean, I got so much out of it, and I've already since January done so much from their advice. Like, I'm doing more gigs, I'm writing more, I'm networking more, and just really thinking more strategically as well about my brand and my business as a musician. So it kind of puts things into perspective as well, and just makes you kind of think where to next and where to next after that. So you've got to kind of be a few steps ahead. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to put a song out.
Yeah.
All right, what's next? You know what I mean? So you just gotta, it is a business at the end of the day, and that's something that you've got to really think about. Otherwise you're just kind of going to be falling behind, essentially.
As I'm fond of saying, it's not show friends, it's show business. So
Yeah, that's it, exactly. That's the thing, right? But I'm very lucky that I have made amazing friends. I've got friends that I've 10 years plus that I'm really close with, and it's really nice because we all go through the same struggles, and it's really nice to have them to and vent to, and just let it out, and then you can move forward and keep going, and it's just a big circle.
yeah. Now, talking about your songwriting, because you mentioned that when you started writing songs, it was with other people. You were in the band, but
Yeah.
then you've been writing since. Do you mainly now write on your own?
I do. So when I was with the band, I actually wrote the lyrics and they wrote the music. So it's pretty much like I'm writing everything now, and writing and co-writing with other people is something that I'm not really used to. So it's a new step for me, and it's one of those things where I've kind of got to step out of my comfort zone and be a little bit more vulnerable in sharing my stories and with other people that I don't really know. So it's a big step for me. But I'm enjoying it. I'm doing a lot more of it. So the more that I'm doing it, the more that I'm comfortable doing it as well. So yeah.
Which brings us to your new song, Long Way Home. What is the story behind it?
Long Way Home is, to be honest, I think it's one of my most, and I know a lot of artists say this, but it is one of my most personal stories that I've written. And it took me a little while to write the song. Essentially, it's a song for the dreamers, and for those people that feel like their dreams are kind of just slipping away a little bit from them, whether that be their life's going in a different direction, or they're getting older, and things just seemed a little bit out of reach. But for my story, it was, I've always wanted to be a mother, and I've always wanted to be a musician as well. And doing those two things can be a little bit hard. And growing up, I didn't really think that I'd have any issues having a family, starting a family. And it wasn't until my husband and I tried to start a family, that we were told that we wouldn't be able to have kids. And so my husband had to go through cancer treatment about 10 years ago. So he's 10 years remission now. But he had Hodgkin's lymphoma, so he had to go through chemo and radiation. And I've got fertility issues as well that I didn't know about. So it was a little bit heartbreaking to think, oh, like your dreams have been crushed essentially. But I didn't let that. I didn't take no for an answer essentially, and here I am now. I've got two beautiful girls. Chaos as it is, but I'm so grateful to be blessed with those girls, because, like I said, I was told I wouldn't be able to have kids, and I'm here now, writing music, performing music, and you just got to be resilient, and that's what it's about. So if it's meant to be, it'll happen, and it'll happen at the right time. I guess is long story short.
Well, clearly those little girls were meant to be, because
Yeah.
depending on what you believe in, they were determined to get here, it sounds like.
Well, that's it, and I like to remind myself that as well with everything that I'm trying to achieve. If it seems too hard, don't give up. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen at the right time.
But it is a big decision, I think, when you are a creative person and you want to have a career in music or any other art form, really, because that's a lot of energy, and it's not
Yeah.
predictable energy flow, right? It's not like, oh, I can
Yeah.
just splice it into this hour here. And children need structure, and they take a lot of time
Yeah.
and energy. So it sounds like you thought about that quite carefully, about how to balance that as best you can before children arrive.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are my first priority, and I'm really lucky. I've got a really supportive husband. I've got a really supportive family. So, and I like to keep them as involved as possible. So if I'm going away for a gig, I'd love to, if it's possible, bring them with me. And like, they came to Tamworth, and to be honest, it was their first Tamworth, and we didn't expect it to be 40+ degrees, and we were camping. So they managed to stay for about 4 or 5 days, and then they drove home. But but it's one of those things, like, I'll do anything to make it work, and it's all about, like you said, having structure and having a routine. And I'm I like to say, a very organized person within the chaos that we are. So yeah, it's just one of those things. You just make it work, and you gotta do that.
So the song "Long Way Home" is, as you said, for dreamers. Wondering if your dreams have changed dramatically over the course of your life, or whether you feel it's still the same dream but just taking different manifestations.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Because like, my kids were my dream, and music was my dream, and I guess the next part, continuing on that dream, would be just to be a good mum, and be a good musician, and the best version of myself, so that I don't know, my kids can look up to that and say, yeah, my mum did that. And to continue on with them as well, wanting to do what they want, and like, not take no for an answer, and just be a dreamer. There's a lot of people that say, oh, that's going to be too hard, or that's not achievable, so I'll just find something easier to do. Because it's
Quite
hard. At the end of the day, if it's a dream, it's not going to come easy.
No, it's, and I often think you really got to hold your nerve with things like that,
That's
because
it.
it's very easy to lose it.
100%. 100%. And especially in this industry, you hear the word no a lot.
Right.
And so sometimes you can take the no, but you just do what you gotta do. If you really want something that badly enough, you make it work, and you work around that no, and you make it a yes.
Yeah, right. So I think you mentioned being vulnerable with the songs you're writing, and I also hear the vulnerability in your voice, and I think that comes from, it's not about you wanting to dump emotions onto the listener, if that makes sense. It's actually about you wanting to show emotion in order to connect with the listener, which is a different intention. I'm wondering, in your development as a singer, whether that's always been the case in terms of how you use your voice, or whether it's come about just with writing certain songs.
Yeah. I definitely am a very emotive singer. Even in my songs, they're all very personal, and um I think there's not a lot going on musically in my songs. My intent is more to capture people's attention with my voice. And I feel like I like that about when I'm listening to music. And I mean, for one example would be when I'm listening to an Adele song. Her voice I get goosebumps instantly just listening to her, and the way that she kind of expresses how she feels through that song. And I feel like you connect with it more when you can feel that emotion in the song. So I guess that's just something that I've kind of taken on as well without realizing it. Yeah, I guess. I guess.
And we did mention the word structure. You are putting a structure on your music because, as I mentioned at the top, you're planning to release one song a month this year. Are those songs already written, or are you letting the waves of change wash over you, so to speak?
You know, it's one of those things. I actually have got a lot of songs that just have been sitting and collecting dust, and it just felt like there was never the right time to release them. There was always something happening, or a gig that I had to promote, or another song that I had written and I wanted to put it out first, and I just kind of got lost with it. But Star Maker kind of forced me to release the story. I recorded the story about 6 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I've always wanted to release it, and it's my personal favorite, and my family, every time I play a gig, they're like, "Can you play the story?" And I just thought, why let it sit in the computer essentially, and just do nothing and go nowhere. And so I released that, and I've got just a couple more that I've got ready to go, and I'm writing a heap more that will probably push in front of the line a little bit, because I'm just really excited to get those out there. But my goal, and I've been trying to hold myself accountable for it, but to do the release a month. And if, I'll be forgiving if I can't. If there's some months where I need to give it a bit of space to let the song do well, I might do that. But there's plenty of music that's going to be coming out this year, that's for sure. So I'm really, really excited, because I haven't really done that in a long time.
Are you recording at home, or are you going into a studio with all these songs?
I'm going into a studio, so it's a very expensive process. But I'm really lucky. I'm heading to Nashville in July. I'm going to be doing a little bit of recording over there, and I've got a studio down here that I'm working with. That recorded Long Way Home, and recorded Come Back Home, and my next single that's going to be coming out as well. And it's really exciting. I'm really, really happy to be getting music out, and just having songs on Apple and Spotify. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, where can we listen to you?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I've got videos on Instagram." And so it's really good just to have people be able to go on and listen to them online.
And there are a lot of things to think about as an artist these days, putting music onto Instagram, for example, and the streaming platforms. And as you said, the intention is to release a song a month. But if a song starts to do well, then you may want to give it some breathing space. And that too is something you have to be really flexible with.
Yeah, like they are the personal songs for me, and I don't want to spoil them by kind of taking the light away from them a little bit. Like, I want people to be able to enjoy it. And there's a lot of songs that get released within a month, and so it can easily get I guess missed. Sometimes people be like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that you put this song out," and it's because you can get just so lost within all of the promoting and all of the TikTok videos, and everyone up on Instagram, "Hey, you pre-saved my song." But it's sometimes, you do have to give it a little bit of space, and let it have its time and its moment, and let it catch on a little bit.
So out of all the things you do as an artist, songwriting, singing, performing live, recording, do you have a favorite?
I hands down love performing.
Right.
A lot of people say, "Do you get nervous?" And to be honest, I think I get more nervous songwriting. I get more nervous co-writing, I should say. I love sharing the stories, and I love being, because sometimes you can't really see the people in the crowd with all the lights and all that, but I love to be able to feel the energy, and I love like connecting with people after, or you can hear people when they're listening to me explaining what the song's about. And I've had people come up to me just recently, actually. I was supporting Sammy White on her tour down here, and someone came up to me in the crowd and she just started crying, and she's like, I was listening to you explain Long Way Home, and she's like, and it just really touched my heart. And it's just something really special, because when I'm writing the song, I'm not thinking about anybody else, to be honest, when I'm writing it. Sometimes I am, but this particular song, it was more of a personal song for me. And to know that my songs can be helping other people with any personal situation that they're going through, it's something really universal, really, really special. And yeah, I've never really had that sort of thing before.
Right.
So yeah, it's really nice to hear.
And is that slightly odd thing when you create something like a song where it doesn't belong to you anymore in a lot of ways, even though you could be there performing it live, the crowd has their own interpretation. Someone's formed a different relationship to it, but it must make you feel proud.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's really nice to, like, I see on, and I keep referencing Instagram, but when people are using my songs in their stories and using it as their background in their reels, when you don't ask them to do that. Well, sometimes, I mean, sometimes I do, but but
It's all right.
it's really
that's what you got to do.
to self-promote, just push it on people. But it's really nice when there's strangers that I don't know and they're tagging me in their stories and on their reels, saying just that they've connected with my songs, and or that it makes them think of like special moments in their lives. And it's something nice, and I don't think I'll ever get used to it, but it's really special.
Now you have your own podcast called
I
Country
do.
Podcast. So when did that start, and why did you decide to start it?
I think my husband Jamie started it a couple of years ago before COVID with Tasha Amoroso, and it kind of went on the back burner a little bit, and they took a break. And Tasha now lives in Queensland, and so Jamie said, "Oh, do you want to jump on as my co-host?" And I was like, I can't talk. Like, I get so nervous and anxious. So I'm a terrible public speaker, which is funny because I sing in public. But if you ever saw me on stage talking, you're often seeing my mum or my husband side stage going, just sing the song, you're rambling, you're going around in circles. So I was so nervous to do the podcast, just purely because of that. I'd say the wrong thing, or I'd offend somebody with something that I said that I probably didn't mean. And but it's been such a really cool experience getting to know other artists that I probably wouldn't get to know. And you'd probably feel the same way, like and people are so approachable as well, which is another thing that I didn't expect. I think technology is, as much as I complain about it, it made it a lot easier to access musicians and country music lovers, and you just have to send them an inbox and like, hey, do you want to jump on the podcast? And we've had a lot of requests, which is really cool. And to be honest, I didn't really know if anyone would be listening to the podcast because we've got so much going on. I think we've got 2 or 3 episodes out, and we've got a few banked up, but we're a bit slow to get them out there at the moment. But it's been really cool. We've had some people that I normally wouldn't have had a really good in-depth conversation about the music industry and their love for country music. So yeah, it's called Country Soul.
People can find it on all. Sorry, what did you say?
It's called Country Soul.
It's called Country Soul. Sorry, if I didn't say that. People can find Country Soul on all the usual platforms, I'm guessing.
You can, we're online. Any social media platform, you can find us just at Country Soul.
Fantastic. Well, Jay, I'm going to leave it there because I've had you talking for a while. You need to save your voice for recording your own podcast and songs, of course. So it was lovely to speak to you about Long Way Home, and I look forward to your next songs, and it sounds like there will be a few to look forward to this year. So Jay Santilli, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.